If you've ever thought about what it is that makes someone have that X factor, what it is that makes someone have that special je ne sais quoi, right? That special thing to where they might not be the most handsome person in the room. They might not be the best speaking person in the room. They might not be the richest person in the room, but they certainly are somehow the most influential, the most impressive person in the room, the most looked at person in the room, the person who has the most people reacting to him in that room. Then I can tell you that it can only be one thing. Because confidence is the X factor. Confidence is that thing that takes you further than any other materialistic thing, than any other looks thing, than any other thing. Now don't get me wrong, guys. Those things make it a hell of a lot easier to be confident. It's a hell of a lot easier to act like James Bond when you motherfucking look like James Bond. But I can tell you that I think we've all had instances, and there's certainly more people, right, that look like James Bond, that act like James Bond. There's certainly not a lot of people that don't look like James Bond that are able to still act like James Bond. But the ones that do, they are the most impressive people, right? Because actually, in terms of confidence, in terms of personality, they are able to do it without the initial advantage of being better looking, of having, you know, and look guys, I know that I look like a supermodel myself. People always tell me I look like Brad Pitt.
Sir, say it, say what you said.
You do
Look like Brad Pitt. I look like Brad Pitt. You hear that?
But that's besides the point. People that are able to get similar or the same results, or even better, without having, you know, the advantages that most people already have that are doing that, we need to look at what they're doing, so that even if you are, you know, super good looking, or if you are already rich or whatever, you can use those characteristics to, you know, put fuel on the fire essentially. And so what you're going to understand is that those things, right, being good looking, or, you know, for example, if we're talking in different contexts, right, being good looking in a dating context, being very intimidating looking in a fighting context or a confrontational context, you know, looking very wealthy, or you know, having some stuff in your wrist in a business context, whatever, those things obviously help, but those things essentially give you a permission slip, right? Those things get you in the door. And then if you, after getting in that door, fuck it up with your personality by being very shy, insecure, whatever, holding back, then you're gonna mess up all that value that you came in with, right? It's just literally gonna diminish a large part of the value that you just came in with, because you gotta understand that the primary thing we as humans are designed to look for when judging someone's value in a certain aspect, right? Even in a professional aspect. If you look at the movie Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio, you see this movie that, you know, he's a con man. What does that even mean? A confidence man. Why? Because these people have nothing but confidence, right? That's what they do their whole business on. They run their whole, you know, shtick on just pure fucking confidence. And obviously you don't want to be a con man, you want to have real world value. But if you're able to apply the confidence of a con man to a real world valuable person, that's just going to be a fuel on the fire type situation. And that's what this video is going to be about. So you got to understand that we as humans, we're designed to judge someone's value by their sub-communication, right? By their mannerisms, by their behavior, and how they come across through that, okay? And so the reason for that is because we evolved from tribes, okay? And in the tribe, essentially, the person who was at the top was the most comfortable, right? He could be himself the most. He could display mannerisms of confidence simply because, you know, he felt safe. And if you're feeling safe, you do things like speak louder because your voice opens up, right? You do things like adjust your posture, etc. Just because you feel that it's safe to do so. You have access to your wit. You have access to, you know, all your jokes and all your, you know, arrogant or like, you know, funny remarks, because it's safe to do so. And so if you're having that kind of communication in a certain situation, then that sub-communicates that you feel safe, and that sub-communicates that you are at the top of this tribe. You know what it also sub-communicates? If you're able to be like that in any odd situation, if you're always the same in every situation, then it sub-communicates that you have been responded to positively in similar scenarios in the past for years. If you right now have been rejected in every social situation, have lost every single deal, but now in the next sales conversation, in the next social situation, whatever, you just rock up like you're absolute fucking man, then the person who you now speak to is going to assume that you already had 1,000 closes, that you already had 1,000 yeses, whatever in the past, because otherwise it wouldn't make sense for you to behave like this. Okay? And so a great, analogy to understand this even better is if you have ever had a confrontational situation, right? Where, almost got to violence or, a situation like that. And, maybe you had that with a person before that was very intimidating looking, fully tatted up, very big dude, roided up dude, whatever. And so let's say this person, you get into a confrontation. At first, you're definitely gonna be, right? Most likely, like, oh shit, I have to watch my back here, right? This is a serious guy. But let's say that he just starts, being his sub-communication shows that that he's scared or that he doesn't actually want that smoke, right? Or whatever. Now you're not going to think of him as much, right? Now this might seem overly simplistic, but that's what an example is supposed to do, right? If your personality doesn't match what that initial frame is set by your looks or by whatever you're using to get in the door, then it doesn't actually help you. And so the other way around, let's say that you look like an absolute wimp, but you just act and you behave so certain, so confident, and you're so willing to go into confrontation or whatever, then the other person is just going to be like, oh shit, this guy must be like a real gangster because he doesn't look like it, but he fucking certainly acts like it. Just like with looks, right? If you're, not the best looking guy, not the richest looking guy, but you're in a social situation and, with a girl or with a general social situation and you just act like the absolute man just by your self-communication, then people are automatically just going to place that value on you. Okay, there was a little video I saw that really illustrated this from some prankers, and they were just doing a prank video. And obviously it's much easier if you're doing a little prank video because then after the fact, you can always say, oh, it's just a prank video. But nevertheless, in this video, they were going to like this yacht show or whatever. And they were like, and I saw this many years ago, but it always stuck with me. And they were just acting like absolute assholes, right? And they would just be like, oh, my daddy owns this or like this or that. And then they were cutting the line and they were just disrespecting people mad hard. And people were just completely going with them. And the reason for that is because they communicated like they were important. And funnily enough, one of these fucking salespeople said, or one of these people that they cut off was like, oh, you guys must be really important, right? And he was saying it in a way where he was like trying to be nice. That just shows you, if you just act like it, then you will make people think like you're that. Now, guys, I'm not making this video with the purpose of you just not achieving anything in life and just acting like you're a rock star, but never actually becoming one. I'm more so saying that you want to use this sauce to shortcut the process of becoming a rock star. Because if you're networking with people, if you're getting into certain situations and you just communicate in a certain way and people place more value on you, right? You're going to be able to get ahead in life further. So instead of saying, I'm going to get these external things so that I can then act like this, we're going to say, I don't have this yet, right? Because I'm working on it. Is you're going to act like that and therefore you're going to get that. Okay. So you're going to use the feelings to get the things instead of the other way around. And that's actually going to do two things for you. You're going to get the things much quicker, which, look, we all want things, right? We all want a cool lifestyle. We all want to make hella cash. We all want to be successful in our own right. And at the same time, though, it's going to keep you in control of your confidence, and it's going to give you a rooted confidence that's not dependent on any external things. Because if it is, if you're just like, okay, now I'm confident because I got X many followers, because I look like this, and because I'm wearing this, anybody throws a jab at you, okay, and it just fucking crumbles. And you're always going to have this anxiety in the back of your mind that your shit that you have creates your confidence and your sense of self-esteem. And that is going to, permanently give you a stressed state because it can be taken away like that, right? So that's the way that you want to create it. And what you're going to find is that if you're coming from this place and now you're talking to people, right? And now you're taking actions, then you're going to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you right here come from the mentality of I am the fucking shit and I can do this in whatever way, whether that's in sales, whether that's in fucking boxing, whether that's in whatever, because all these people online, if I hear this one more fucking time, I will go absolutely nuts, fellas. All these people are always like, yeah, competence creates confidence. Yeah, no shit. Okay, obviously, if you're really competent at something, you're going to be more confident in it. That doesn't help anybody. Okay, because if you step into an activity with an extreme amount of confidence, because you're just switching into that mental stance, you're just pushing yourself to go into it with confidence. Okay, faking it till you make it, or just stepping into that from here, right? Then you're going to take actions that are way more accessing your potential and your capacity, and then you're going to get better results, and that's going to feed into that confidence. So you're going to go into an upwards spiral. Whereas if you just go into it, like let's say that you're going into boxing and you're going to be like, oh yeah, I'm new, oh guys, I haven't been training for that long, I'm new, I'm not that good, whatever. You're going to go into it like that. You're going to take actions like a new guy. You're going to take actions like you're not a real boxer, right? And then your results are not going to be that good because you're not accessing your full potential. And then obviously that reinforces that initial belief. Whereas if you just go into the boxing gym and you just go in like, yeah, obviously I'm new to this, but I'm a boxer, right? Like I'm a real boxer. I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to be, you're basically coming from a mental stance of I am the best boxer, okay? Now, you know consciously that you're not there yet. Your external skills obviously have to catch up to that, but you're just coming into it with that level of emotional certainty of what that person would have, right? Therefore, you're going to access more of your capacities, because that's how the mind works. If you're comfortable and confident, it unleashes more of your genius because it's safe to do so, right? Once again, if you've ever been at like a party where everybody was below you, you were super charismatic, super funny, all of that shit. But then you go to a different party where everybody you perceive to be higher status than you, then all of a sudden, all of your jokes are gone. Your confidence is gone. What happened? You're still the same fucking person, right? It's because your brain is a survival mechanism and it doesn't want to let you be cool and extravagant and, gregarious, whatever, around a bunch of people that are higher status than you, because it's dangerous to your mind, okay? And the way around that is, once again, to shift into a different mental stance. Consciously choose to not engage with that. Consciously choose to step into confidence. And if you do that, and if you give yourself that internal permission without necessarily having the validation that most people wait for externally to do that, you're going to be such a powerful fucking person. Okay, I often hear my friends, okay, and people that, I might go out with, or if I go into the gym or anywhere, and if I talk to people, or if I approach a girl that I find pretty or whatever, sometimes I don't get a good response right away, right? But it doesn't affect me, right? A friend of mine recently said this to me, like I approached this girl was like standing with some guys and this and that, and at first this woman was like, kind of weirded out, and she was like, what the hell? And it didn't really look like she was into me, but I didn't let it affect me. I was going off of my internal compass, not an external compass of like, am I being validated? Am I okay here? Am I accepted here? No, because I know that my value will be transmitted through my confidence and my personality and my energy within the next 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. Maybe it takes 5 minutes, okay? Because I don't always get an instant value bump from, my looks or whatever, okay? Obviously, look, jokes aside, guy, I'm obviously a good looking guy, right? But I'm not a model level dude. I have some friends that are like that. And, you get an instant good response. Or you also have that advantage in, for example, a sales conversation, or when I was in sales, right? And I went into businesses to sell my marketing service when I was 18. I was a very young kid, okay? I looked like a kid, but I went into these meetings literally like I was a millionaire, like I was 35-year-old millionaire, right? And so in the beginning, these people would kind of be like, testing me and just kind of like blowing me off and this and that. But then I would just hold frame. I would just hold myself to that identity, and I would just keep communicating like that. And I would just keep rocking it, and I would just be super straight up, and I would just turn them around. And you are only good in terms of social dynamics, in terms of confidence, in terms of these things, if you're able to turn a no into a yes. If you're just able to receive yeses from people that already want you, from deals that we're already going to close, then you're basically an order taker. There's absolutely nothing special about you, okay? Nothing special about your skills. But if I see someone who's able to go and interact with a person that was initially a hard no, and they're able to turn that into a yes just by their sheer confidence and their sheer social skills, now you know that you're a master communicator. When I was 18 or 17, I had this little sales gig, and I remember that I was going with this guy who, was doing the door-to-door sales then. He was really good, and he approached like a group of people, and then there was this woman who said, oh, if you're soliciting, no, or if you're, oh, no, right? She was just a hard no, and he basically turned her around into a firm yes, and she signed up on the spot. And I saw it and I was like, now that's a good fucking sales guy, right? That's someone who knows what he's fucking doing, because he was able to turn a no into a yes. And that is what communication is all about. And so to be able to do that, you cannot look at the external validation. You cannot look at like, oh, and be constantly analyzed. Oh, they want me. Okay, now I can be, no. If you do that, you're going to be absolutely cooked. And so to be able to actually do that, what you want to do is you want to get comfortable with discomfort, right? You want to continuously put yourself in situations where you feel social pressure, where you don't know if people want you there or not, where you feel rejection, where you feel social pressure, that you get comfortable with it, okay? Over time, and you train yourself into that. And that's going to allow you to close deals at a higher percentage, to think of yourself more as greater, basically, to think bigger, right? To get more successful, all of the above. And additionally, what you want to do is you want to have, this is going to be something that you can practice, which is that you want to lean back, just like I'm leaning back in this chair, behind your ego, which is basically the identity that you have for yourself, the ego that has all of these feelings of, oh, I'm being rejected, I'm accepted, I'm not this and that, and lean behind it and understand that you are not that. And disassociate from those thoughts, because all of those things at the end of the day, they're just thoughts in your head. And if you can just lean behind it and understand that you are not those thoughts, but you are allowing those feelings and thoughts to be there, but from an observatory standpoint, then you can basically disassociate from that ego and associate with your true self and the soul and whatever is leaning behind there. And that sounds a little bit esoteric, but I'm telling you that it can be extremely effective, because everybody in the world is just operating through this egoic mind, right? Through this mind where they're comparing, they have to have X, Y, Z, and now they're feeling good enough, right? They have to know the most people, they have to look the best. Whenever they go into a group, they're like, okay, why am I allowed here in this group to be the man? Because I have X, Y, Z. Oh, I'm better, I'm the better fighter, or I'm the better looking, or I have this, or I have that. But listen, your value doesn't actually come from there. Your value comes from your personal presence, okay? And as corny as that might sound, I'm the last fucking guy to be a gay, spiritual, wow, wow, woo land type dude. I just focus on what works, and I have no attachment to whether that actually sounds cool or not to you guys or to me. And I'm just going to tell you what works. And I'll tell you one more example about that, which is that I knew a girl when I was young, and this girl was, trying to date guys or whatever. And then, there was a guy that she was obsessed with, and then she posted about this, a whole long story in this woman's Facebook group, where basically this Facebook group was, meant for women to support each other and, help each other, be successful with guys, I guess, something like that. But then accidentally she clicked on making it public instead of, private within this group. And this was in high school times, which that's probably the worst times that you could do something like that. And everybody saw it. And then I called her up. I'm like, yo, shit, you got to take that down. And she was just completely okay. And so what I'm telling you here in this story, and I thought about it back then, and I was like, well, she completely disassociated from this, right? She completely disassociated from whatever was going on here, because the pain was so great, the embarrassment was so great, that she just disassociated from it. And she was completely okay. And so that story should tell you that that is possible, okay? And you can do that too, in practical daily application, and make it workable for your own success. And so it is very similar to these like samurais or these people that are able to, okay, put it this way. What we've heard is that, you know, you've probably heard this before. People are like tortured to a very, you know, just annihilating, you know, just a very, very bad experience, that they go out of their body and they don't feel it anymore. They're not there anymore. And so that's the same thing. When it becomes too bad, they can disassociate entirely. And so if you can train yourself to be able to do that without being tortured, whether that's emotionally or physically, then you're going to be able to deal with pain much better. And you're going to be able to disassociate from the paradigm where it even affects you at all. It doesn't go to less affecting you. No, it doesn't affect you at all anymore. Now, I'm not saying that you can live like this. How you want to think of this, guys, is that this place, that self, the soul, whatever you want to call it, right? The observer, that's what you really are, your presence, right? But then you can still use the egoic mind. You can still use that person here, that identity, as a video game character and optimize that motherfucker for whatever you want. Because the subconscious does run the show when you're not there, right? And so you do have to optimize this character, but also from a place of disattachment, like you're not that, right? And so that's going to allow you to do things to where other people, you know, like my friends tell me, say to you, how the fuck did you do that? And if you like that shit, then I'll see you in the next one.